Hello everyone. I hope everyone is doing great. Perfect. So, I will be sharing PPT now and I will be asking questions how many sign languages are there in the world. So, there would be above 300 sign languages here in the world, not only the one sign language. So, it's not that way. We have different kind of sign languages. Likewise, we have English, Hindi, other spoken languages, correct? Spanish, French. Likewise, we have the all the countries have their own sign languages.
Yeah, Manisha, I have shared the screen. Whether is it okay? Um,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
is it okay?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, perfect, great. Next slide, please.
Okay,
So here is my background. So I born in Bombay, in India. My parents, they found out that I am a deaf person when I was 3 years old. They decided that they will move me to America for the better education. So I stayed in America and I grew up there and I studied over there. BA, MA, PhD. I have completed my PhD from America. So in I have completed my PhD in special education and management from Gallaudet University, and my research work was on in India on the deaf education, the education system in the universities and the colleges. What was their faults or anything else? So I have completed my PhD, and after that I got the job, and I came here in India. So I'm still here. It's been I in 2016 I came here, and it's been a 5 years I'm here only. So my focus is moreover on advocacy on the deaf community related to them, because deaf people do have the human rights. So I'm fighting for that related to the accessibility, equality, and all of the other things. So one fact I would like to tell you that I learned sign language when I was 21 years old. Before that, I was using a hearing aid. I could speak a bit, but I was not much confident at that time. I was so uh, underconfident. I was shy. I was a shy person. So when I went to the university and I met a lot of deaf people, a strong native signers who was the leaders, who were so much skilled enough. When I met them, I studied along with them. I learned American Sign Language there, and then I understood that, yeah, about the deaf culture, about the deaf background. Then I got the confidence, and now I'm here. Now I can easily present in front of everyone. But earlier it was quite difficult for me. But now I'm confident enough. So now I would be presenting how Indian Sign Language do impact the deaf community here in India. Next slide, please. So I have already told you this question about the sign languages in the world. Next slide. So we have more than 300 sign languages around the world. Okay, next slide, please. So here in India, when I came here, so there are a lot of deaf schools. I went there also, and I asked the schools that how the education system is going on. What was their perspective? So I found a lot of misconception related to the sign language here in India. For example, they think that sign language is a tool to help deaf children. to speak or write, so that they could do it in a better manner. No, sign language is actually their own language. It has its own grammar. It has its syntax and all the grammatical structure. So if the if you learn sign language, it actually equivalent to spoken language. Next slide, please. Other misconception was there. So people would always say that sign language is not a perfect one because people would look like a monkey. So it's not appropriate for people to use sign language. So a lot of people, like parents, they will not allow their children to sign because they feel shy that, yeah, society might mock them, that it feels like that they are a monkey. But it's a misconception, completely a misconception. Next slide, please. Yes, so when you are in a society, as we all have a hearing people here, so people think how a deaf person would survive in the society where everyone speaks, correct? People would not able to communicate with other people with a hearing one. So how they will survive in the society? No, it's completely a misconception. Sign language can help a deaf person to easily survive their life, and also they can communicate through the app, through writing with other people. We have other ways too to communicate with other people, with hearing people. It's not mandatory to always speak and hear to communicate with the hearing people in the society. So we should allow deaf people to learn the sign language and also how to communicate with the hearing people. Next slide, please. So this is one video I would like to show you. Just have a look. Please click on the play button. I think internet is quite shaky. Please play again. So you saw the video, right? The person is signing and having an expression, body movements, correct? You can easily see, and we have the subtitles too. So it means if we are mentioning the subtitles, it would be great for everyone. It would provide the accessibility. So we have the research and actually proven that sign language is actually impacting the deaf community. It's not a tool, it's their language. It's not helping deaf people to write or speak in any ways. Next slide, please. So now I would like question, how many deaf schools are in India? What would you think? Next slide. More than 386 schools we have all over the India. So, people have told me that in Maharashtra, alone in Maharashtra only, we have more than 300 above schools, but I am not sure about it. But the main point is 386 schools we have, the government aided one. Next slide. So, what do you think the quality of education for the deaf is? Whether it would be above average, average, or below average? What would you think? Next slide. Below average, right? The reason behind it will tell you. Next slide. So 2% of 15 lakh deaf children have access to quality education. So 2%, it would be possible that parents would have a, they are from the good They have good financial background, they come from the good society, that's why they could access good quality education. Might be 2% could be them, or maybe deaf person trying hard to learn more. But 98% deaf children, they got failed because they do not get the quality education. Next slide please. So I sorry, I forgot to mention earlier. So in this COVID situation, when the school got closed, so the deaf students, they they were back. I mean, they were not at par with other people because they do not have the closed captioning option, not the interpreters available, and teachers also don't know sign language. So they got back with as compared to the hearing people. But they were so interested to learn in this COVID situation. We don't know if next 2 years what would be the situation for them. Next slide. So next question: how many teachers use sign language or they know sign language while they are teaching the deaf children? What do you think? Next slide. 95% of the teachers do not use sign language here in India. No. Next slide. So the irony here, I know that there would be a lot of people here today also that they would like to learn Indian Sign Language correct, and deaf teachers are all ready to teach you Indian Sign Language. There are online courses which are being held on right these days, and people are learning ISL. But in schools, deaf teachers are not allowed to learn Indian Sign Language. Students are not allowed to use Indian Sign Language in their old school. What an irony, right? So you imagine if a hearing person is interested to learn Indian Sign Language and they are learning, but sign language is of the deaf children, but they are not allowed to use. Next slide. So why the quality of education for the deaf is not good? What is the root cause of the problem? Next slide, please. So, lack of awareness on sign language. A lot of people do not understand why sign language is important and what's the benefit of learning sign language. So, there is a research. No research has been done. We have research in Europe and the other countries, but it just started here in India. So people are not getting what is the benefit of learning sign language. The written learning a written part and also the sign language is important for the deaf children. So it could be the doctors, audiologist, speech pathologist, school administrators, teachers, parents who are not aware related to the sign language, and 90% hearing parents give birth to the deaf children. So 90% parents are hearing, where in the case of the deaf children. So they, when they got to know that their children is deaf, they will meet to the doctors, and doctor would say sign language is not the beneficial one. We have to fix the problem. So they think that children has a problem, and for the teacher in the school, teacher would say, "I will help that your child can learn the speech." So they don't think that sign language could actually help in language acquisition for the deaf children. It could actually help their children to learn the language acquisition and learn the skills. So we have the language deprivation with the deaf children here in India. Next slide, please. So, the misconception of accessibility in schools, in deaf schools. So, our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, has said, he talked about more inclusion, right? In with the person with disabilities, children with disabilities, whether it could be locomotor disability, cerebral palsy, autism or blind people. So we could have the inclusive classes. So you mean that a teacher has to handle all kind of disability? Will it be possible for one teacher? Not possible. Likewise, it would be showing the example of a zoo here. When you are going in a zoo, we have a lion, giraffe, elephant. So it would be possible to have them at one room, at one place, right? No, everyone will just bite all of them all together, correct? So we can't put them in one class. So likewise, we have to have a deaf school for a deaf children for get the language acquisition. So when they are done with the language, when they actually acquire the language after that, they can go in the inclusive setup, not before that. Next slide, please. So, on these days on television, we do not have the sign language accessibility. Yeah, it just started recently. Whenever we have our prime minister's speech, we do get the sign language interpreters on the television, but not on the everyday basis. So, how we can access the information? For the deaf people, it would be difficult. We were lucky that in 2018 we have a World Cup cricket match in 2018. So National Association of the Deaf, they collaborated with DD, with Doordarshan, and they told them that yeah, we could have a deaf anchor who would anchor the cricket matches. You can click on the second video, please. Please click on the second one. Yes, please click on the play. So you can see both of the person are deaf. So we do have the voice as well in this video, but it would be accessible for me. But for so you can see there is a one hearing person and one deaf person who is anchoring. So one more thing we need here is closed captioning also. So this is the concept of inclusion. We are having an inclusion at one place only. Next slide, please. Next slide. So another example, so millions of deaf people they travel all over the India, through train, through other public transport as well. So whenever we have the information on the mic, the if the platform got changed or the timing got changed, so we deaf people would always be they feel fussy because they would not get the information. So because all the information are through the audio messages only, and they would not get it if the train got late. But in Europe, there are three options available. They provide three options. First one is the English languages, which would be showing on the screen. Second one would be the speakers, and the third one would be the sign language interpreters on the television. So they provide the accessibility. That's called inclusion. Next slide, please. Next slide. So yeah, one of my friend, he shared a quote with me. I really like this quote. Please read this one. So we, the disabled community, and also including the deaf community, we always like fighting and trying to educate and to inform other people how they can provide us the accessibility and how they can listen to us. But everyone, they were like that, yeah, we always have a problem. The society thinks, right? But they are not listening what what is our requirement. So we always, it's our human rights to have the accessibility and the equality, correct? The hearing people, they also need some things for themselves, correct? So we also are humans and we also need the equality. So it's mandatory that we get the accessibility in our society. So hearing people, they have to learn how to listen and how they have to hear the advice from the disabled people, not advising them how they can accommodate. Next slide, please. So now the question is inclusion, the word is inclusion versus inclusion with ISL. Next slide, please. So inclusion, what inclusion means that that yeah, I took it from one book, that it means that trying to get involved everyone, like you are trying to get involved everyone here. Next slide. But inclusion with ISL, it means that learning Indian Sign Language, and if people are trying to learn Indian Sign Language, that becomes they are being inclusive. That means that yeah, we can feel included with them because they are supporting Indian Sign Language. If they are not learning Indian Sign Language, that doesn't mean that they are supporting inclusion. So this is a new concept we are actually discussing over it. So we would say that yeah, if you are learning sign language, that would be easy for you to include with us. Next slide, please. So, what do you think? How it would be possible? Deaf community is so small, and we are expecting all the hearing people to learn Indian Sign Language. How it will go on? Next slide, please. So, RPWD Act, Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016, when it got passed. So we have 2 points here. One is related to the culture, and the other one is the education. So it clearly says that yeah, we should have the equal accessibility, right? So hearing people have to listen to us. What is our communication mode? How we would like to communicate? They should respect the deaf community. And culture and our recreational activities, how we would like to do it, it should be similar as the hearing people feels like. That's the point which are mentioned in RPWD Act. Next slide, please. So now I will be showing the places. You would see whether the places are accessible. So one thing I would like to inform, the education system here in India, you remember the deaf children when they are growing up, they are not getting any option to learn sign language because they always miss on this part, because teachers, they focus more on speech therapy and the audiology part, so they miss on their language acquisition and they suffer language deprivation. They think that it's the only tool, not the complete language, and they couldn't succeed much. So how we can provide the accessibility? So accessibility could be provided through sign language only. So now we have the places in India, whether it provide accessibility or not. We'll see the next video. Next slide, please. Please click on it. Click on the video. Uh, Please go back. You have to click on the video. Yeah. So these are the places where whether we have the accessibility or not. So RPWD Act has already mentioned that yeah, we will get the accessibility. But what could be the solution for it? For example, bank, right? Everyday people have to might visit for get the money from it, and so when we have to get the check or anything, and deaf people couldn't read it. So how they will communicate in the bank? Whether the people in the working in the bank, they would know the sign language. So deaf people have to bring their friend, their parents, the interpreters always, all the time. But they have to depend on someone. But we want to become independent. We want to communicate by ourselves. So what could be the solution? We'll see now. Next slide, please. Maybe you would be thinking that we have the sign language interpreters in India. Yes, we do have. But remember one thing, Only 350 to 400 sign languages interpreters are here in India, all over the India, and deaf people are around 10 million. So, for example, we have 348 schools, or around 368 schools all over India, right? So we need one interpreters in all the schools. So how many interpreters would left? The banks and other places, how will get the interpreters in all the places, in hospitals? Nowhere. So it's not the best solution to have the interpreters at all the places because we have lack of interpreters. Next slide, please. So, how can you create the environment? How we can create the environment more inclusive for the deaf one? Next slide, please. So, in August and July, I remember our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced that from senior secondary classes, the ISL could be taught as a subject, and if the hearing people would like to learn, they can learn Indian Sign Language. For the deaf community, it was a great success because in schools in schools the hearing people can learn Indian Sign Language. The idea was so good because if they would learn sign language, they could have the opportunities. They can become the interpreters. They can work in the video relay services as an interpreter. So, and they could be involved in our deaf community, and we could easily have a inclusive thing. That was the right time. That was a big step. Next slide, please. So, please click on the video. So, hashtag inclusion with ISL. It means we have the hearing community and the deaf community, how they can involve with each other. If hearing people would learn basic Indian Sign Language, they can easily communicate with the deaf community. Our Prime Minister Narendra Modi just announced that, ISL could be taught as a subject in senior secondary classes. So, hearing people, if they would learn Indian Sign Language, if they would choose that subject, later on they can easily communicate with the deaf people. I could see that, there are a lot of associations, NGOs are working on are spreading the awareness on the Indian Sign Language. National Association of Deaf, they are teaching sign language to the police officials as well. So now the awareness are rising up in the society, in the banks, in the hospitals. If people would learn basic Indian Sign Language, then we can easily feel the inclusive in the society, and we can easily communicate with the doctors and the other people in the society. And if we want to have the deeper discussion, we can have the interpreters. So hashtag inclusion with ISL, this is the thing here. So this is a video. It's why we showed this video. If more people would learn Indian Sign Language, that can easily provide the accessibility to the deaf people. So investing money, it's not the much amount you have to invest. Just a little amount of money you have to invest. It's not the technical things. So we don't need to put more investment on the technology. It's easy if you learn basic Indian Sign Language. In the future we could get the help from the technology part, but we could have the other option. We can learn Indian Sign Language. Next slide, please. So you think will it be possible for all the people to learn Indian Sign Language and also provide the accessibility to the deaf community? So remember, before we have the Martha's Vineyard in America. So there were the community over there of the hearing people and the deaf people who were staying together, and everyone would communicate using the sign language. They don't feel excluded from the deaf people. They feel that, they were equal to all other people, and they have the accessibility at that part. But it got stopped in 1952, in 1955. So we have the conference in Milan. We have the Milan conference where people said that we will ban the sign language and we will encourage speech therapy But now the situation is changing. I think in 2011, we had the conference where they we had the Milan conference where sign language was banned, and later on in 2011 they said we were wrong, we should encourage sign language also. So then again, deaf community fighted for their rights, and we have to win back to remove all that thing. So you remember, it's not the thing that happened in America only. So we have the deaf people in rural areas also, they use sign language. We have in south, I don't remember, there is one place where people use, hearing people also use sign language. But if we have this thing in south side, we can have it all over the India also, and we can do much better. Next slide please. So when our Narendra Modi sir, when he informed that yeah, sign language could be taught as a subject also. Earlier I was thinking that it would be difficult, but I thought no, it can be possible if everyone would learn Indian Sign Language, the basic one, that would be easy for everyone to communicate each other. So then we can have the stories how people learned sign language and how it impacted their life, and how it provided the accessibility to the deaf people, and how the change has been made in the society. So in September we had the Deaf Awareness Month. In September we are planning to we spread the awareness in the September month, and we are planning to spread the awareness in the December too. I am hoping that yeah, there is a 1 month and you will learn Indian Sign Language and you will share your stories. Next slide please. So one example I would like to show. Please click on the video. Yeah. So, parents are supporting. We should support our children to learn sign language. If children will learn sign language, they can easily do better in their life. So, if they would learn sign language and we would learn sign language too, we can do better. So you can see that there are a lot of stories which people have shared and we uploaded on our page. We have the Facebook page and the Instagram page and on the Twitter as well. So join us and support sign language. Next slide, please. So, what is the benefit of learning Indian Sign Language? You can learn, it would be the another language, and also you will learn about the deaf culture. You will experience it. It's not learning the language only. You should learn about the deaf culture too. So it would have their background. So then you can have more benefit, and also you can easily express through your body and facial expressions. And here in India, you can already see the noisy environment. So we always use gesture too, correct, sometimes here. So it's natural we use gestures. So we think that yeah, if people are using gestures too, it would be easy for them to learn Indian Sign Language also. But comparing to the other world, if to move, and they don't use gestures much, but here in India people use much gestures. They use gestures and all here, and it would be the added advantage for you to learn Indian Sign Language. And another benefit, we have the noisy environment. So if you feel that there is a more background noise, you can easily use sign language to communicate with other person. And also, if a person is standing far away from you, you don't need to scream. Okay, you can easily communicate through sign language. That would be the easy one. And the other thing, you can also have the job opportunities option as well. If you would learn the sign language, we would have more sign language interpreters. You can get the job too. And also, there are much more reasons also. So if you want to learn more, please look at my Instagram page as well. Next slide, please. I know there is one challenge. There are a lot of people who would like to learn Indian Sign Language, but they would like to know at on which platform. But we have the online courses also, so you can learn from a deaf person. Any deaf person, if you meet deaf person is a skilled one, you can ask that yeah, if they can teach you basic sign language. But please don't learn Indian sign language from a hearing person. Whether if a hearing person so much skilled one, no, they are not the native signers. Native signers would be the deaf person only who can teach you the in the right manner. And online courses are providing by the Vishesh, and there are online courses they are providing. We have the other organization as in Bleed TV, Bleed Tech also. There are a lot of organizations on from where you can learn online sessions, and you can look on the Instagram page. And on the social media also, there are some short stories in the ISL also. You can learn from that as well. So we are still trying to find out the ways how you can get the more access and you can learn Indian Sign Language. But yeah, this time you have to use the technology thing so that we can encourage people to learn at their home. Next slide, please. So when I moved to India, I was focusing more on the advocacy work, how Indian Sign Language would be benefiting the deaf community and also their education. Right, there are a lot of deaf children who are missing on the quality education here in India. So we thought that they are completely losing on the accessibility part, and we are advocating for this thing. I thought that this will not change in a one day. It will take time. So how we can spread the awareness related to the Indian Sign Language? So we make the apparels. So I love to draw and to do sketching. So that's why I made some designs, and I met a lot of deaf skilled people who could make the sketches as well, and they can show the deaf the other community as well that yeah, they are the skilled one how, and they can earn through it as also, so they can sell their design. So I had the idea and we started our online business. Its name is Freedom to Sign. Why we mention this name Freedom to Sign? Because in a lot of schools deaf children are not allowed to sign, so we thought that we should have the Freedom to Sign name so that they have the right and they can choose on their language. So also the deaf, we choose the deaf other the new deaf people every 3 months so that they can introduce with the new designs for our t-shirts. So if we would sell t-shirts, it will the funds will go on to the schools where the teachers could learn Indian Sign Language and teach the deaf children. So the deaf ISL expert could teach. We pay whatever we get by selling from these t-shirts we pay to the deaf experts who can teach teachers, hearing teachers who are teaching deaf students in the schools. So we have started this online business. So we are selling these things in it actually benefiting the deaf children in the schools only. So it's for the accessibility part only. So if you will buy the t-shirt, it will help our deaf students to learn Indian Sign Language. Please visit our site also. So it's an ecosystem thing, and you can see that yeah, all the deaf and hearing people, if they would use sign language and learn sign language, it will support all of the people. We will support each other. So deaf people have their own business also, but here in India it would be quite easy also to communicate with other people. So we are working as a team, and it's easy for us because we all are deaf people, and they think that yeah, they can do much better. We don't need the interpreters over there, that we need to take permission from the interpreters. No, deaf people, they learn by themselves. They made their business, they set up their business, and they thought that yeah, they can do much well also, and they can hearing people can easily accommodate with them. Next slide, please. So this one deaf artist, you can see, I this one picture I really liked it. You know, in Delhi, in Bombay, there are a lot of police officials. You know, if people would not be wearing a mask or anything, you have to pay the fine for it. Correct. So likewise, if a hearing person don't know sign language, and deaf people would say that you need to pay a fine for it because you don't know sign language. If you would be learning sign language, then you would not be fined for it. So it we could have this practice all over in India. So this is a good imagination that person has drawn it. Next slide, please. So that's all. Thank you so much. I hope everyone has learned from my presentation today and you will be supporting Indian Sign Language.